Welcome, students. This is going to be a crash course when it comes to how contemporary art was influenced and still is being influenced by African-based art. The way that the contemporary art here in the Western world, especially here in Europe, heavily got influenced by African-based art was, of course, due to the transatlantic slavery and everything that happened after that. One of the things that people would do when they would conquer a country is that they would take the art, the artifacts. It could be paintings, it could be sculptures, it could be statues, whatever it was. A lot of these beautiful African-based artifacts like masks, sculptures, statues, and all other things came into the private collections of people that would trade into that. So it is not weird that a lot of the contemporary or so-called modern artists were heavily influenced by these particular artifacts. They came from a time where it was all of us about beauty. A lot of these African-based artifacts were not in line with what people would see here in Europe. It wasn't about the beauty, it was about the functionality. A lot of these objects were made as an expression of what tribes would use, what was used during rituals, what was used during particular spiritual practices. And you can also see it in the way that they would be made. When you look at African masks, they had a certain functioning. They were big, they were very expressive. They could be even multidimensional so that during certain practices or events, people could see it from multiple places, but also the understanding of how we were practicing spirituality in that particular time, because we had an understanding of human level and also supernatural entities that were amongst us. These were the expressions of that. So when you look at how art has been influenced here heavily, you see it even in fashion, you see it in design, you see it also in art. You can, for instance, take Picasso. Look at how he first was painting. This man could paint hyper-realistically. And look at how he started to paint. Abstract. Very much the functionality, playing around with forms and shapes. And he also admitted somewhere in his career that he was very much influenced by African-based art. And he was not the only one. Vav was also an artist that was heavily influenced by African-based art. And so many other artists who were influenced by the abstract forms, the shapes, the texture, and they started to incorporate that also into their art forms. So when you step into classes, art classes, and they start to talk about these contemporary artists, what people need to realize is that you are actually looking at the very strong influences of African art. And we are still heavily influenced by that, because till this day, in many art institutions like museums, galleries, you still see these African artifacts. And the beautiful thing about it is that these African countries are saying, give them back to us, because they have a functioning, they have a certain meaning. These are not just artifacts that you just have them stand somewhere. They have a functioning. They are part of our culture. They are part of our rituals, and you need to give it back to us. It also explains why I, as an artist here in the Western world, focus on Afro-Caribbean people. Because we have a history that we bring forth with each other. It's seen in our clothes, in our colors, in fashion, in music, and even in our art. So that's a crash course of art class. Class is dismissed. See you next time.